Hoops through life. Hoops through life.
Welcome to another episode of Hoops Through Life, a podcast where we discuss the women's basketball collegiate recruiting process and transition from high school to college. I'm your host, Elsbeth Bierman. Today, our guest is our very first coach that currently coaches at an institution that is part of the NAIA, the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. And honestly, now that I think about it, he's also our first male guest, Coach Jered Lyons. Jered played for 4 years at Eastern Mennonite University, graduating in 2008. He began his college coaching career in 2009 at Hood College on the men's side. After Hood, he served as an assistant coach, also on the men's side at Salisbury University and then Eastern Mennonite. In 2014, Jered made the switch to the women's side when he was named the head coach at Washington Adventist University, which is where he coaches today. Coach, thank you so much for being here.
Elizabeth, thank you for that introduction. It's very proud to hear that. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. And honestly, I'm really excited to talk to you today. And to be honest, while I'm sure there are many similarities in the overall recruiting process in terms of tips and recommendations, I don't know much about NAIA. So I'm looking forward to learning. And, with the guests being primarily coaches who coach at NCAA institutions, I'm sure people listening are interested in learning as well. So, yeah, with all that being said, why don't we just kind of jump on in?
Okay.
Yeah. So when you're interested in a potential athlete for your program, where do you begin your evaluation? Can you just kind of walk us through that process?
Yeah. I'm a very relational coach. I think relationships to me matter. I would say if an individual is transactional, it's more so of, the results and what they can do. But I start at a very human level. Can we connect, with myself and our staff and the players that we have? And we do a lot of travel. So like you stated, for us we're one of the only NAIA schools on the East Coast. There's a few up in Pennsylvania. There's one in Boston. We're the only one in the DMV area. And so we travel a lot. So just on a human level, are you an individual that you're fun to be around? Are you personable? It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be, outgoing or laid back. You can be yourself, but are you a joy to be around? Are you, a fun person to be around, because we spend so much time together? So it really starts there. That's the first thing. After that, then of course, you're coming to school to get an education. So making sure that your educational pursuits match with, our university. So engaging talks with, about your GPA. What are you looking to study? If you're looking to study civil engineering, we don't have civil engineering. and so that's an opportunity to network within the coaching profession, where, you'll reach out to a coach whose university has civil engineering, and you say, hey, I have a kid that, can flat out play. We don't have their major, someone that you might take interest in. So, having those personal connections as well. And then after the academic pieces, it comes to basketball, the skill set. Do you have the skill set that we're looking for? And I know it may sound elementary, but we're really looking for that well-rounded athlete. Can you pass? Can you shoot? Can you dribble? How are your shooting mechanics? Do you have a solid IQ of the game? And so that's that would be the next step. And then, for myself, I don't want to necessarily say we're an offensive minded program, or but I do value, shooting. So shooting mechanics is something that, really catches my eye. Obviously, the name of the game is to put the ball in the hoop. So that's kind of like our 3-tier: personality, fit, academics, and then skill set.
Yeah, I think, and I'm glad you mentioned in that order as well, because I think a lot of times, or maybe most, I don't know what high school athletes think, but I can see them thinking, oh, they have to, like, athletics is maybe first. And like that's the first thing that a college is
Yeah.
looking for to gauge fit, when you kind of just flipped it on its head. And a lot of coaches that I talk to flip it on its head as well. And it's like, no, it's fit first. And I didn't know that Washington Adventist was like one of the only NAIA schools on the
Yeah.
East Coast. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can I sit next to you on a bus for 12
Yeah.
hours and not,
Yeah, literally. Yeah, our conference tournament is last year it was in Lawrence, Kansas, about 45 minutes from Kansas University. And we're this year we're all over the place. We're in South Carolina, Alabama, Boston. Um uh yeah, we're all over the place. So yeah, it's a big part.
Yeah, which I imagine is also a great experience too. Because I mean, getting to see a lot of different places and doing that through basketball, I'm sure that's a huge selling point for you. Maybe I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, it is, and that's another. I gave those three tiers, but on the visit, we talk about that. You also have to love traveling here. Like if you know a bus ride, and then also Kentucky. We're in Kentucky quite a few times, so we're going to trips where it's 8 hours one way. Are you, is that something that sounds fun, sounds exciting for you? If you love traveling, then this is a great place. Like you said, being able uh, to see the states, every state that we go to, we always try to go to the top, a good eating spot, maybe check out some cultural sites, museum, or something unique to that area. For example, 3 years ago, our conference tournament was in Lincoln, Illinois, birthplace of Abraham Lincoln.
Hmm.
So, you know, getting a chance to, just learn some of that history, is fun.
Yeah. And going back to something you said about the athletic side of everything, you mentioned year one for shooting, and I also think it's important for people to understand that some coaches may feel really comfortable teaching one aspect of the game, and maybe them or their coaching staff doesn't feel as comfortable teaching one aspect of the game. So they might want you to come prepackaged in that way so that they don't really have to worry about that. Do you have any recommendations or questions that student athletes can ask coaches to try to figure out like that side of it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Does my question make sense?
No, no, it definitely makes sense. I think that I would encourage student athletes during the recruiting process to kind of dive a little deeper with questions with the coaching staff. Maybe you're asking, certainly during the process, student athletes are asking, what are the strong suits of the head coach? And I know on visits, we really encourage our our recruits to ask our current players when I'm not around, how coach, what's coach like, off the court, or, what are some of his strong suits on the court. One thing that we tend to do after season, we ask our team for feedback. What are ways that we can improve ourselves as coaches? What are some things that went well? What are some things that needs improvement? And so I think that recruits can also engage, ask, well, your assistant coaches, what are they responsible for in practice? I would have to say that most head coaches, depending on, if you have I guess it depends on the makeup of your staff, but you try to hire in areas that you want growth in. So that way you don't have one coaching staff that, as you're a coach, that you want to bring different things to the table.
Hmm.
So within reason, we try to do that here as well.
Yeah, like different tools in the tool belt, not just
Right,
not all the same tool and all of that.
right.
So asking like the coaches questions and things on visits, are there, because you mentioned you're very relational, are there any questions that you ask most of or maybe all of the athletes who come do visits to try to figure out like culture fit?
Yes. So I do try to gauge their level of being a gym rat. I think those that have come through our program, they thrive here if they're in the gym, and doing it on their own. Of course, with NAIA rules, we're allowed to have a little bit more contact with our players early and then also in the summertime. But that's one, we try to ask questions that gauge their level of commitment when nothing's required. And
Right.
that's also the most challenging thing too, because recruiting process, everyone is trying to put their best foot forward, but how do you really gauge if someone, is truly a gym rat and really relishes the side of just working when no one's watching, the unseen hours. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Because people can say whatever they want, but until you kind of see that work. So what are some things that kind of either tip you in one direction or the other in terms of like, oh yeah, gym rat or no,
yeah.
kind of all
So
talk.
yeah, I would say a lot has to do with, just asking them, well, what's your daily regimen during the school year versus, in the summertime? And just, speaking if, some say they don't have a summer job or, they will literally just be upfront with their daily regimen. And if, you know, that workout isn't in that regiment, then for us it's kind of a red flag that um, maybe they're not working on their craft as much as we maybe initially would like.
Hmm.
And I think for us too, also, being in AI school, we do offer athletic scholarships. So that component is a big component, and they are, our scholarships are all performance based. Currently, we do not offer full athletic scholarships. However, they are substantial. They are very
Hmm.
substantial. So we have to be selective to making sure that that intrinsic motivation, working out unseen in the unseen hours is something that they really model.
Hmm. And so you also mentioned like asking people around them. I'm assuming you mean like high school AAU coaches, that type of thing. What
Yeah.
what what do those conversations look like from your perspective?
Yeah, the conversations with the high school coach and the AAU coach.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a lot of and it's something that us as an athletics department, we're really trying to document more the recruiting process, because I think in all academic institutions, or oftentimes the perception is coaches are just, we're just rolling the ball out or just
Yeah.
heading out to the field and just playing games and practice. There's a process, and um part of that process is, yeah, reaching out to their high school coach, assistant coach, um their AAU coaches, and then now trainers as well. I would have to throw in trainers.
Okay.
So those conversations are, um questions are, do you give them a schedule, or are they reaching out to you? Who made first initial contact? Is it one thing where, they want a trainer for the social media visual part of
Hmm.
it,
Yeah.
or are they really coming to the sessions, to work? And so, and then also with the high school coaches, we'll tend to ask a little bit more about the academic side, um, and just the level of commitment to their high school program. Are they coming in early? for shots, 25 minutes, 30 minutes before the start of school? Are they staying late? Do they come early to practice? Do they leave early? Some of those little questions are things that we like to know.
And is that something for you? So just so everybody knows this is your your opinion, you're not speaking for all coaches out there, but is that if you're kind of not hearing the answers you want to hear in terms of like that gym rat part of your culture that you're trying to build, is that something where you just kind of cross their name off the list, or is that just something maybe that's like more of a, oh, we got to watch out on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's one template where we'll, completely cross or move on. But it is something to note. And I think the more positive feedback that we're getting that, this individual has been in the gym, or I'll give you one example. So we have a young lady on our team now. Her name is Corey People. She's a big time player. She's a transfer from a Division III school, University Notre Dame of Maryland University up in Baltimore.
Hmm.
They won a conference championship last year. Phenomenal player, averaged 18 points per game the whole year. MVP, just she this summer she was everywhere. She played in the BWI Summer League. She played in the Summer League in DC. She was at Howard Community College, where she also spent time playing for Coach Barnes. Great program there. She was at their open gym. She was at Prince George's Community College open gyms.
She was
She was at
everywhere.
our open gyms. That's the type of it's almost contagious. And
Right.
so that was like the backdrop of our program this summer, is that, we were in a summer league, a DC summer league. We were at open gyms. And so, to have a player come in like that's the type of that's what we like to see. Yeah.
Hmm. And this is kind of going in a different direction, and I just thought of it, so I don't know what made me think of it, but if you think about like your current roster right now, what percentage of the women on your roster would you say you initiated contact first versus them initiating contact with you first?
Oh, during the recruiting process?
During the recruiting process.
Yes. I'm taking a look at my I have pictures of our roster each year up on my wall. Um I think everyone on our roster we made initial contact.
Oh,
Our
wow.
staff. Yeah, either myself or our staff. There
That's
wasn't
there
yeah,
was there wasn't any.
yeah, just for this year. Now, in
Okay.
years past, we have had people who have reached out. Well, actually, no, we have one. We have one young
Okay.
lady. She's from Puerto Rico. Her name is Derdianis. And it's really been a blessing. She's a sophomore now, but she's a really hard worker. And we found out about her from Bishop Ironton's old girls basketball coach, Jason Harris.
Okay.
He had a connect in Miami, where she was going to high school. She reached out, and yeah, we were able to land her based on that, her reaching out. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think? Because I'll say this from everybody I've interviewed, that's like the highest percentage of you reaching out first. So, yeah, like, why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think scholarship has a lot to do with it as well.
Hmm.
Where, like I said, there aren't full rides, but it's substantial. It's
Hmm.
it really helps with the cost of attendance, at our school. So I think, having as far as scholarship money to work with, I think we're a little bit more selective versus whether it's a numbers game, where, and I'm not
Yeah,
calling out any D3 in
yeah, I
particular,
got
but
you.
if a roster size of 20 people that's a lot.
Hmm.
That's a lot. And so, you know, a roster size of 20, you're going to have to take some that are, reaching out to you,
Hmm.
or at least engage in making sure that your, the program and things fit. But I would probably have to say that would have to be, for us, um, yeah, a big factor.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just a different situation too, right?
Yeah,
So like
right,
every school has different situations and, every year some people, especially when money isn't really on the table, some people may
right,
quit, some people may figure out, oh, they kind of want to just focus on their studies or whatever it may be. And
right.
that might be why the roster may seem a little bit
Yeah.
inflated. So yeah, I understand what you're saying for sure. Do you think, and this might just be me because I have like no idea about NAIA, but do you ever
Hmm.
feel like you're kind of explaining yourself to people who might not be familiar with NAIA?
Yes, quite frequently.
Okay.
It's starting to get better. I think when I first took the job in 2014, that was actually the university's transition from NCAA Division II
Okay.
independent back to NAIA, because they started off NAIA back in 1985 when the athletics department started, and then in the early 90s, they were NCAA. They transitioned to NCAA, back to NCAA. But yes, it's a lot of education. Um, and it's very comparable to Division two. Like 90% of our schedule, we're playing Division two teams.
Okay.
Um, so I kind of just, I share with people it's a different governing body. At the end of the year, instead of going to the NCAA tournament, we go to the NAIA tournament,
Hmm.
or have the potential to. And, because of our region and location, 90%, 80% of our games are against Division two teams. So, talent wise, that's kind of where we're looking at, um, players that kind of fit that description.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad that it's getting better because again, it's about fit, and people may just not be aware that there's a school like Washington Adventist that could be a really great fit for them. You
Right.
all also give money, and that may not be as well known. I'm not sure. So I
Hmm.
think it's good to explore all options
Right.
in the recruiting process, just because again, like you said, it's kind of all about that fit. Um, so since you are a bit more selective in that process, what are some things that might stick out to you in the recruiting process for somebody who might be like, I want to go to Washington Adventist. I need to. Like, how can they stick out in that process?
Yeah. I would say, you know, obviously the game film and those things certainly help. You know that being able to, watch some of those things, whether it's a highlight or a full game tape. So that helps. The thing for me that I think transcends basketball, because I'm at a point as far as being the athletic director. I also, my direct report is the president of our university. Some ADs, they may report to student life, or they
Hmm.
may, report to someone else. I am on the president's cabinet at our university. And so there's a level of not just bringing a student athlete to play basketball, but we want to bring a quality student who our professors enjoy, engaging with, student athletes that, say, do what they say. They're where they're supposed to be when they say they're, supposed to be there. So I think a recruit that takes the recruiting process on their own, so we're not getting calls from their parents, or we're not getting emails from their parents, but they are taking ownership of their recruiting process, asking questions. If we're asking for a transcript, they're following up in a timely manner, and not, oh yeah, I forgot about that, but just really having their stuff together
Hmm.
is a big sign, because especially for a department like ours. I don't have a full-time assistant coach that you know can handle and monitor certain things. So we need our student athletes to be a little bit motivated and on top of some of their things that we can focus our attention elsewhere of the program. So that's big for us, taking ownership of their leadership and or I'm sorry, taking ownership of their recruiting process.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
because you don't want if you say you have no full-time assistants, you don't want their time to be spent walking to somebody to class or making sure
right,
that they're actually showing up to class or whatever it may be. Just got to take care of everything really outside of the court so you all can focus really on
right.
that aspect of it is
Yeah,
what I'm hearing a little bit.
yeah. And it's like little checklists. You know how it is. You check in with the recruit, and you may say, "Hey, let's follow up in 2 weeks." And by
Hmm.
these 2 weeks, if you could do this for me, if you can reach out to this person, and then those that are doing it, one, they're showing us that they're truly interested in being at WAU, and it yeah, it says a lot. It says a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And with on-campus visits, whether it be like an unofficial, or I'm not sure actually how NAIA does it, so please correct my terminology if I'm using the wrong things, but like unofficial or official visits, is that still the correct terminology to use?
Yeah, well now I think yeah, there's really there's no there's not really a limit. Um it's typically juniors and seniors though.
Okay.
Yeah, that we're freshman and sophomore we're able to um yeah, essentially their junior and senior year we're allowed to have them on a visit, but there's no distinction between official, unofficial.
Okay. All right. That's yeah, thank you. So
Hmm.
those visits, their junior and senior year, what are kind of the things that you're looking for in terms of like red flags, green flags, that type of thing?
Yeah, I will say that we had so for us, the way that we do our visits and one, our staff, I personally give the visit around campus. It takes maybe about 45 minutes to an hour to tour our entire campus. And so, that's an opportunity for us to engage with our recruits. It's also a chance for them to get to know us and us to know them. um, the communication part is big. You can still be quiet, laid back, and reserved, and still communicate and have really good conversation.
Hmm.
But if you're just clearly disinterested, not really asking questions, not engaging with people and individuals that you meet, um, you know throughout the tour, for us, that's kind of that's kind of a red flag for us. So it's really the engagement and communication piece. Coming to campus with questions, we really value uh, our recruits asking questions.
Yeah, it sounds like you want to get to know them kind of as quickly as possible and for them to get
Yes,
to know you too, because
right.
I mean, doing a visit 45 minutes to an hour where you and your staff is walking around them around the whole campus, like that's huge. I not
Yeah.
a lot of coaching staffs will take everybody's time and put it into one recruit. So I think that's something that can't be ignored either. I mean, what are some things from your perspective where you're like, oh, that's a big deal for me to do this or for my staff to do this, where student athletes might not think it's that big of a deal?
Yeah, it's yeah, that's a great question. And I often try to evaluate and then also given our time and resources, we're not able just to bring everybody to campus. So it's really we have the preliminary where, traditional email, phone, text, we'll go out to a workout. We really want the individuals who are really serious about taking the next step to be able to come to campus. And I know that may hurt our recruiting a little bit, but just given our resources, it's just not possible to, for every person that is interested, come on to campus and we'll give this personalized uh campus visit. It is really reserved for the ones that are really ready to take that next step.
So
Uh,
I just
yeah,
I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly
yeah,
because you said that it might hurt your recruiting. Do you mean like let's say we're talking, I'm an athlete and you think like maybe my skill level isn't high enough or maybe you just haven't had the best vibe and I say, "Oh coach, I want to come for a visit." Would you tell me like I don't think that's the right next step or how would that conversation go?
yeah. That conversation would be, let us do a little bit more, give you a little bit more feedback by, maybe us coming out to a practice or workout, really just getting a little bit more intel about you. So so I have to take that back. So even before coming to a practice, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little bit more intel. Like we would need to see a little bit more video. Um, and we'll spend time speaking, for sure. But before you spend time and resources, before we spend time and resources, we want to make sure that we're giving you honest feedback. Because if, we feel like you don't have the necessary skill set that we're looking for, we'll just say that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I honestly I think that's really admirable and I'm sure you've saved people a lot of time and effort to maybe look elsewhere because there are some, institutions that probably just cast a wide net and it's like if anybody wants to come on campus, sure, come on campus, but for you, I mean that means that whenever anybody's coming on campus, that's somebody that you're very interested in.
that's correct. Yep,
Yeah.
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, now that I actually verbally think about it, but that's been our process, and we've had some success doing it that way. And I think if we're ever at a point where we have a full-time assistant coach, or then yeah, maybe we can expand some of our resources and time to include those that truly are interested, because we do want, we have a great campus. We want everyone to be, to see it, but we also want to be honest as well, and not give, false hope. We want to be transparent.
And so I assume that means that you would want that same on the other end too, right? Like if you're pursuing somebody and they're just not really interested, how would you want for them to express that to you?
Yeah, you said it, Elizabeth. Yeah, just let us know that, we appreciate the feedback, or we appreciate you reaching out, but WAU is not something that I'm looking or leaning towards, or considering at this time. We that helps out a lot as well, as instead of, not having those conversations, and then, speaking for a whole year and you had no plan. Yeah, it saves both parties. Yeah. So
Yeah, a lot of time and effort. Um, yeah, because I think a lot of times or sometimes maybe the student athlete might think I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings, right? If I tell them that I'm not interested, what would you tell somebody who said like something along those lines?
say that one more time.
So if somebody, I feel like a lot of the reason why people they might just like never respond, ghost you or
Oh,
whatever it
right.
is because they don't want to hurt your feelings or they don't want to
Oh,
say
right.
no or something.
Right.
Like, what would you tell that student athlete?
Yeah, I would say that, part of you coming to school is to help prepare you for the workplace. That's one of our things that we say here at WAU. We want to prepare our student athletes for the workplace. And so that is a honest conversation that you're going to have, whether you own a company or you're working for someone. It's best practice to start learning, just to have those honest conversations and not to feel bad about it, because at the end of the day, there are business elements to the recruiting aspect. And us as coaches, we know that that's a part of it. So, it's not hurting our feelings because it's something that is a part of the profession. So, yeah, we might be, oh man, I would really have loved to coach that kid. Um, and then also, you never know what's going to happen on the back end. So one of our assistant coaches, I recruited out of high school. It didn't work out. WAU wasn't a choice, for her. she went elsewhere, but we always stayed in contact. And this would be her third year, Danielle Prey. So you never know in the future how things pan out as well.
Yeah, you don't want to definitely, I mean, it's like so cliche. They say like you don't want to burn any bridges, and that's just fact of
Right,
life. Like you said, just
right,
preparing you
right.
for life in general.
Hmm.
What types of questions, and you kind of touched on this a little bit when talking about like asking the student athletes things, but what types of questions would you encourage student athletes to make on their visits to like the coaching staff and to the current student athletes to make sure that they're vetting the school in the way that they need to?
Yeah. I would say, for recruits, I would suggest that they ask about their coach's network. What is life for graduates in your program after they finish their playing eligibility? Where are they working? Do you assist with, getting them in contact with individuals in their field? I would also encourage them to ask the question to current players, you know, um, how is coach's relationship with, those individuals that might not have or that might not get as much, playing time? Are they, treated any differently on or off the court? So those are two that come to mind, but the first one is a big one is, after graduation, what does it look like, for your program and helping individuals reach their goals?
Yeah, I think that's huge. And it makes me think of a quote that somebody else said on the podcast was it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision.
Yeah, that's correct.
And
Yeah, that's a good
so
one.
I think that's an excellent question to ask. And then also I would even say too, like when you're watching a practice, see how the coach talks to somebody who makes a mistake, or
Right.
see how they treat the person you might perceive as maybe the worst player on the team, or
Hmm.
the player that they don't like in that moment, because at some point that will be you
Right. That's correct.
if you're on that team. And so it's just like we can, talk about rainbows and butterflies, but there's good and bad to everything. So just really understanding who that coach is in all aspects of like the range of their emotions, because they're a human too,
Yep.
right?
Right.
So
Yep. Absolutely.
so yeah, I think all of that. I really love that question about like asking, for the players that graduate. And honestly, for you to have somebody on staff who didn't play for you, but you recruited, I mean, I think that says a lot about you too. And yeah, I mean, we met through other people, and I've only ever heard good things about you. Like, oh my gosh, Coach
Yeah.
Lyons is the best. He's amazing and all this stuff. So I think that, I mean, that's not fake, right? Like that's a wide range of people, and to have somebody working for you, I think that's a testament to you as well.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I think, all right, let's move to, or actually, I have one more question about
Hmm.
like giving offers. So what is maybe something that student athletes may not know about like offers and timelines and just the way that you do it? Because I know some
Yeah.
institutions say like, oh, there's 5 offers out for the first 3 that say yes, or something like that. Like, can you talk
Yeah.
a little bit about that process for you?
Yeah. So the offer for us is the very last step. And I think it all, again, there's no one template or blueprint because every scenario is different. However, my second year here, we had a young lady from, um, yeah, I'll leave names and schools out of it, but we had a recruit. It came down to two schools. Well, she was ready to commit to us. Her offer was out. There was still one school left that was getting ready. that she felt would offer but hadn't offered yet, and she hadn't taken the visit. We definitely encourage all of our student athletes, take all of your visits, because once you choose WAU, like, we want to be selected. We don't want to be, oh, this is my last choice. We want to be selected over others. So we encourage, to leave no doubt. So we offered her on a Thursday. She had a visit with the Division I school on that Saturday. She went on her visit. After the visit, they offered her, and they essentially they said that you had to take the offer. You had to take the offer now. If you leave campus, the offer is off the table.
Wow.
If she wanted to go there, she just wanted to explore, but she took the offer, being pressured. Her career never, not to say that if she would have came here, but that was the first step in her relationship with that school. I don't even think she finished her playing career there. She had two years left. She never finished. And so, I learned something from there, that we can't just, have offers out and then there's just an infinite time limit. We are upfront with, hey, this is an offer. Now, I don't agree with, you have to take the offer right now on the spot. That seems a much to me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm one that, reflect with your family after, right, do all the pros and cons. But when we offer, we do give a pretty reasonable time frame, and we just let the person know, hey, this is the time frame that we're in, and that we would just ask for you to make a decision in that time frame. And if it goes past the time frame, there might be some grace period, but we'll just let them know that we have to move on to the next. So that's kind of how our offer works. Initial contact, high school AAU coach vetting, trainer vetting, going to see them play, getting a good feel for it, having them visit campus. When they visit campus, we want to already know that they're, on our radar, and we're in the process of, offering them. So.
And I don't know how the money you mentioned is kind of like Division II, so I'm not sure if like you have the agency to say, oh, this student athlete might get a little bit more than this student athlete.
Yes,
So
yeah.
what like is there for you, is there any negotiating with the student athlete?
I wouldn't necessarily say negotiating. Well, yeah, no, there is, because and it all depends on the situation and the need. That we'll give we kind of have our rubric of, how we're offering, but if there's, room for, increase, we'll have those conversations. So there is room for that, for those conversations. But yeah, our staff, we have the autonomy to have those talks, whether increase or decrease. Yeah.
So for a student athlete who might be in a position where they're looking at an NAIA or looking at a Division II, where money is a little bit more fluid, like how would you recommend they go about having that communication, whether it be like increase over the 4 years or like that initial amount for that first year? Like what's your
Yeah.
recommendation?
Yeah, I think every school is different, so I'll speak to us. The scholarships are 1 year renewable, so at the end of every season, we have conversations with our team. For us, we would never decrease. We wouldn't decrease unless if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing academically, but we'll keep you at the evaluation of when we first recruited you. So you'll always financially be at this base, and there's
Mhm.
always room for increase. But we usually have those conversations at the end of the season in our exit meetings. So you'll always be at a base, and there's room for increase. And really the only way to lose your scholarship is you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing academically.
Right. Like you're getting in
Yeah.
trouble on campus or something like that.
Right, or you don't have the necessary GPA or eligibility requirements for the NAIA, which is in your last two full-time semesters, you have to earn 24 credits and above a 2.0. So it's very generous.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I find that most institutions want people to succeed, right? So just to
right,
try to help them as much as possible.
right.
So let's talk a little bit about like the transition from high school to college. I know that can be really stressful, especially if it's, your first time away from home. What maybe are some proactive strategies that you can recommend for athletes to excel academically and athletically?
Yeah, I would say really looking at your daily schedule, one thing that I got from my mentor who I coached with and was also my high school coach, Josh Merkel, who's at Randolph-Macon, incredible coach, mentor, motivator. One thing that I picked up from him at Salisbury is um, planning out the day in advance. So at the end of every day, he would get on his notepad and he would, literally just, write out his day of what he needed to do, who he needed to meet with, any notes. And so that way, the very next day, you've already written it down the night before. You're already ready to prepare and to attack the day. And the success is found in, the daily habits. So I would encourage high school students to get a start on that early and really map out their day to help them stay organized and not just go with the flow. Oh, there's a pickup game here, I'll go there, or but really have a regiment, um, and leave time for flexibility, of course, and on certain days. But I think success is really found in those daily habits, and that's from having a daily planner. Like in my office, I have every year I have like a notebook and it's stuff that I jot, notes down, take it to meetings. I know we're in a, virtual world where,
Hmm.
people using iPhones, iPads, but there's still value in writing things down because I can go back to the day, who I met with, what was said. And I have one for each year, each academic year. I always start with one. So this is I have about 14 notebooks just filled with notes and all that stuff. So I would really time management. That's the first thing we have, you know, that we meet with our freshmen about and our team is the time management because that's usually where the stress comes. You're stressed out because you have a lot of things to do, but you don't know what to do and what to attack first because you don't have a planner.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I'm sure it's
yeah,
cool to like go back into those notebooks too
it
and just
is.
yeah.
It is.
That has to be really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so we're almost out of time right now, so I want to ask a couple questions that I ask every guest who comes on. So, what book or podcast would you recommend every incoming first year read or listen to before their first season begins and why?
Yes, I will solely say, well, there's two. One, there's a podcast called Snap Judgment. It is a phenomenal podcast. I usually listen to it when I'm on the road recruiting or, long trips with my family. But it's real life, people in every real life, in every daily life making decisions and it's storytelling with the beat. So, but the stories are phenomenal. So I would definitely would recommend that. And then the book, Chop Wood, Carry Water by Joshua Metcalf. I actually teach a class, and the textbook to the class is Chop Wood, Carry Water,
Oh, cool.
and it's how to fall in love with the process of becoming great or becoming successful.
Yeah.
And so that is it's a short read, but it's really motivating and it really equips you for the road ahead of being a college student athlete.
Actually, the last person I interviewed said chop wood, carry water too.
Nice.
So
Yeah, yeah, yep, yeah. Excellent,
yeah.
excellent.
So you said snap judgment. I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, Snap Judgment. Yep.
All right,
By
cool.
Glenn Washington. Yeah, it's awesome.
And then what is something about the recruiting process or transition to college that you believe that other coaches might disagree with?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't think yeah, you left me some homework to think about. I don't think anything necessarily comes to mind. I would encourage, and I don't, I think most coaches would say, really enjoy the process. I think sometimes it gets, and as of late, yeah, I'll ask a recruit, I'm like, how are you feeling? Like, are you feeling stressed out? It's a big decision. How are you feeling? Like, are you, allowing yourself to enjoy it?
Hmm.
Um, so I will say that has been increasingly over the years. So hopefully recruits are enjoying the process and it's not, laborsome.
Yeah, not too
So
stressful.
yeah, yeah.
And then last but not least, any final words of wisdom?
Yeah, yeah. I would say, we're big on the five exemplary models of leadership, enabling of others to act, encouraging the heart, inspiring a shared vision, challenging the process, and modeling the way. I think if you can do those five things and really have that at the core of each day, um, I think, you'll have success.
Awesome. Well, I mean, Jered, thank you so much for being here. Everybody should just go out and buy notebooks so you all can attack today and then have something to look back at in, a couple years, which is really cool.
Yeah. I appreciate it, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me on. This was great. This is my first time doing this, and it'll be a memorable one. So looking forward to it being put together.
Oh, awesome. If you want to learn more about Washington Adventist or just want to see what they're up to, you can follow them on Instagram or X at WAUWBB. Thank you so much for listening. If you're looking for more specific recruiting advice based on your situation, head over to hoopsthroughlife.com today to schedule your free 30-minute strategy session with me. We will discuss where you currently are in the recruiting process, where you want to go, and create a plan to get you there. Again, that's hoopsthroughlife.com, HOOPSTHROUGHLIFE.com. And if you have any questions for me or questions you want me to ask future guests, you can email me at l@hoopsthroughlife.com. That's EL@hoopsthroughlife.com. I look forward to hearing from you soon.